Here we go.
This is episode 94 of the Brian HORNBACK Experience. I've got our Knox County District Attorney General, the Tennessee 6th Judicial District Attorney, Charme Allen, with us. She is on the ballot in the general election. General Allen, how are you?
I am great this morning. How are you, Brian?
I'm good. So, 8 years ago, you started with no opponent in the Republican primary, no opponent in the general election. This year, you do have a Democrat. But you've been in the District Attorney General's office most of your life, right?
Yes, I have been in the District Attorney's office since January of 1989. I started as a law clerk. I went to the University of Tennessee Law School, and you can start to work your second year of law school, and I knew I wanted to be a prosecutor. I had gone to law school to be a prosecutor. So during our second year, I came up and asked then District Attorney Ed Dossett for a job, and he graciously hired me as a law clerk. So through law school, I was a law clerk, I was a criminal investigator, I have answered the phones, I have vacuumed the floors, I have done everything in this office. I became an assistant district attorney after graduating and was an assistant for over 20 years. Most of my time as an assistant district attorney was spent in child abuse prosecution. And then in 2014, when my boss, Randy Nichols, decided not to run, that is when I decided to step up and put my name in the hat to become the elected, and unfortunately was unopposed in 2014.
Right. Well, and Ed Dossett, a great guy. I helped in his 1990 reelection campaign. But obviously started in 1989. I mean, the office was obviously not as large as it is today because we don't have all the criminal activity all the different types of criminal activity. But you mentioned that you'd worked in the child abuse unit.
Yes.
In the last, and of course, you did mention 2014, so it's an 8-year term. But you started, at least I know of a couple of units that you started since you've been the District Attorney General. You started the Elder Abuse Unit. How long have we had issues with elder abuse?
Well, we've had issues with elder abuse forever.
Right.
We just didn't really focus on it.
Mm.
Back when I first took office, I had been to a conference where I had heard a prosecutor from California talk about heading up an elder abuse unit. And I knew that we didn't have one here in Knox County, and that I had not heard of elder abuse units around East Tennessee. So when I took office in 2014, that is something that I knew I wanted to do. I knew that our child abuse victims were very unique in the things that they needed, and it was important to have prosecutors that understood those needs. And so I reasoned that elders were unique as well and would have unique needs that other victims wouldn't have. And so I thought it would be prudent to start an elder abuse unit so we could better serve those needs. And so in 2014, I tapped one of the assistant district attorneys to go out around the state of Tennessee and look for another elder abuse unit where we could kind of just model a unit that fit here after that, not reinvent the wheel. But I was very surprised to learn in 2014 that we did not have another jurisdiction in the entire state of Tennessee that had a focused elder abuse unit. So we had to go out of state to find those protocols for elder abuse units, and we did. And we brought that back to Knox County, and I'm very proud to say we developed the first specified elder abuse unit in the state. And since then, the conference as a whole, the Tennessee District Attorney General Conference statewide, has really adopted elder abuse prosecution, and I'm proud to say that every district now has focused elder abuse prosecutors, and we in Knox County have had a large hand in training those other units around the state. And the District Attorney General's Conference also did a 3-year rewrite of the elder abuse laws, because once we started prosecuting elder abuse, we realized the laws had not been looked at in 20 years. And so those laws needed updating, and it took us 3 years in the legislature to completely rewrite elder abuse laws. So we now have the tools to be able to prosecute those that abuse our elders, and do so to the level they should be prosecuted.
Are those typically, and we're going to talk in generalities because you can't talk about specific cases, but are those typically family members, caregivers that are abusing elders?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And it's usually, unfortunately, child abuse and elder abuse both are committed or perpetrated usually by family members, because those are family type crimes. And most of our elder abuse crimes usually start with financial crimes. Many of them are financial, and then it's the children or the grandchildren basically stealing money from the elderly parents or grandparents that have taken care of them, and now it's the child or the grandchild's charge to take care of their older counterparts, and they're really stealing their money. And once we get in and start looking at the finances, we often find neglect that goes along with that, and unfortunately also physical abuse, and in some cases we do find sexual abuse in elder cases. So elders are abused, across the board, financially, physically, sexually, just like everyone else. So we focus on elder abuse crimes with those particular prosecutors.
So the last 8 years you've been the district attorney, so you've been running the whole operation. But just going back, I mean, obviously we see the news reports kind of shifting focus now back to child abuse. We see the news reports of some of the recent prosecutions you've gotten, but it's like, is it new that the victims of child abuse are younger and younger, or has it always been that way?
No, it has always been that way.
Oh, wow.
Unfortunately, it has always been that way. It is shocking and awful the way that we as a society treat our children. And if you're not in this business, or if you're not someone who is in law enforcement or prosecution, it really is not on your radar.
Right.
You really don't. It's not something that most people talk about.
Well, and it's nothing.
It's not a conversation. So once you start looking at our convictions, you will notice that, wow, it really is across the board, and it's brutal, and there are really young children. But it has always been that way.
Well, and it just seems. I mean, I don't know if it's because the media. Well, first of all, you've done a phenomenal. I will commend you. You've done a phenomenal job on really both social media in highlighting the prosecution wins you get. I don't know, having been involved since about 1990. I don't know that we've ever had a prosecutor, whether it be Ed Dossett or Randy Nichols, your predecessors, that we really knew exactly. And unfortunately, it's the change in media. Used to high profile crimes, the TV stations, the news reporters would sit in the courtroom and do that. Now they don't do that anymore because they don't have the time and the labor to do that. And so you're doing a great job both on Twitter, on Facebook, and I'll share some of those places to go for people when we get toward the end. But you're doing a good job of, when you get a prosecution, you kind of put that out so that I guess the media's starting to cover that more. And so I do commend you for that because you've really opened up a whole
new
press operation, I guess. I guess you call that community engagement. But
thank you. Yes, that is one of the things that I did when I took office and started all the new units that we talked about. One of the units that I started was a community affairs unit. I am I'm a prosecutor's prosecutor to the core through and through, and I'm very proud of the work that we do. And this is my life's calling, and I think it's important to share that work. I find it extremely interesting, and I really thought that the community, the public, needed to know what we did. They needed to know that we were here. They needed to know that we were available to them and a partner to them. So it was very important to me to start that community affairs unit, to start that engagement piece. And so having a community affairs director, that's really one thing that came out of that, having a social media presence where we post everything we do. It's very important to me to be transparent and let the public know everything that's going on up here. So we do the social media. We do things like have a Citizens Academy once a year where we invite the public to come into the office. When we first started the Citizens Academy several years ago, I didn't really know if people would like it, if people would be interested, if they would come, and they did. And so we did it for 6 weeks in the fall, and the only complaint we got was that it was not long enough. They wanted more. So we went to 7 weeks. And so for a couple of years, we have done 7 weeks of Citizens Academy in the fall, and the complaint has been still not long enough. So this fall, we are having a Citizens Academy, and it will be an 8-week program. So anybody and everybody is welcome. Just go to our website, knoxcounty.org/DAG, and there are applications on there, and we would love to have anybody come and really get to see what it's like behind the scenes in a prosecutor's office. Because, Brian, so often the press will ask us about a pending case, and we have to say, I'm sorry, but ethical rules prohibit us from commenting. Because we cannot comment on a pending case. And so I think that's why historically prosecutors have been so closed off, because we can't talk about pending cases.
Right.
But we can go above and beyond and talk about our work in general, our community partnerships in general, how we can benefit the community. And so that is what we do through the Citizens Academy, through our social media, a podcast. We did a 6-episode podcast last year. And so really is important to me to partner with the community and let the community know everything that we are doing and show them the great work that my staff does on their behalf each and every day.
So you do podcasts. They can be found on any podcast stream called Generally Speaking. So are you going to continue? You've done 6 episodes. Are you going to continue doing more? How do you envision that whole? Are you done with 6? Are you gonna continue doing some more?
I think that when we did that, we did not know, much like Citizens Academy, when we did the podcast, we really didn't know whether it would be well received or not.
Right.
And so we rolled out 6 episodes, and we have had very positive feedback on that as well. And so, as a matter of fact, I ran into one of the county commissioners last night who just said he had traveled back from out of state and put on the podcast and listened to all 6 back to back on the way home. But had a conversation, and really people want more.
Right.
And so I think probably we will do more podcasts. Yes, we will crank that back up and produce some more of those.
Right. Well, and for me, having had a online blog website for the last almost 17 years, I didn't start doing podcasts until about 2.5 years ago. But it's become a necessary evil, because unfortunately we have to now act the role that we used to have with 2 newspapers and 3 or 4 TV stations. So I think the more information that public servants or offices can provide, I think obviously people are just going out and they're finding their information however they can, and I think that's a great thing. So I will put the link to the podcast in the story on brianhornback.com, and of course all your others too. So what do you see as the we'll start winding down here. What do you see as your when you're reelected on Thursday, August the 4th, and then take office for another 8 years beginning September 1st? What do you see as kind of what you want to? Obviously, you're going to continue doing what you're doing. You're going to continue to grow what you're growing. But any new initiatives that you see coming down in the next, 4 to 8 years?
Well, a prosecutor's focus is always pursuing the guilty and protecting the innocent.
Right.
And so we will continue to focus on victims, crime victims, victim services. We will continue to focus on holding those that commit those crimes accountable. Those are our main 2 charges. But past those, I really have something that has been prevalent throughout the last 8 years that I think will continue to be a battle we fight for the upcoming 8 years that I didn't really pick or choose, and that is the opioid epidemic.
Oh, exactly.
That has really been a centerpiece of the last 8 years, the work that we've done on that, because when I came in, we were just really shifting from closing down the pill mills to we did a great job of closing down the pill mills. The problem was we already had an entire city, it feels like sometimes, that was in the throes of addiction, and so they've turned to illicit drugs, and so fentanyl has been the primary thing we have dealt with for the last several years, and I think that that will continue over the next 8 years. Our overdose deaths are increasing. The pandemic made those worse. We had gotten a handle on that before the pandemic. We had started to make headway, but once the pandemic hit, our numbers just skyrocketed again. We had right at 500 overdose deaths last year in 2021, and when I checked the numbers, we were right on par to be right there again at 500. But I think that will be a battle that we fight, and I am very honored and privileged to have been appointed to the governor's opioid abatement council. And that is a group that has been tapped to distribute the enormous amount of money that has come in from the lawsuits against the manufacturers and the distributors of the opioids. And so I really think that the distribution of the money coming into our state that our State Attorney General Herbert Slatery won for our state, that distribution of that money will be something that will be a focus. Making sure that Knoxville and Knox County gets our share of that money, making sure that we distribute that money in the way that's most beneficial throughout both the city and the county to try to help this community come out of the opioid epidemic and to recover from it. So I know that that's one thing I'll be working on with others from across the state. And so really violent crime, our victims, our opioid epidemic, and something that we do here is when I first came into office, we didn't collect a lot of data. We just didn't have a lot of data to look at. And so I'm a very data-driven individual. So we do a lot of data gathering and intelligent prosecution. And so we are looking at new and innovative ways to continue to gather more data so we can more efficiently and effectively prosecute cases and serve victims. So that will be a big piece of the next 8 years as well.
Your career gang violence, I may not be calling it exactly the right unit, but it seems like we go through waves. We had several deaths that involved some drive-by shootings over in the Austin East area, I guess at the beginning of the pandemic, toward the end of the pandemic, somewhere in that neighborhood. Are we seeing that the gangs coming out of Detroit, are they still coming? Is the gang activity still prevalent, or is it slowing down? Are we just not seeing it? Obviously, you don't really know until the KPD or the Sheriff's Department arrests somebody and brings you the case. But I guess I don't guess we, as a community, we shouldn't, just because we haven't had a drive-by shooting in Knoxville in the last 6 months, I don't guess we should say, we're good now, right?
Yes, because you're correct. We shouldn't say, oh, we're good. We do still have gangs. Now, I don't want to alarm people and say we're overrun with gangs.
Right.
That's true. But we do definitely have gangs in Knoxville, Knox County, and those gangs every day are continuing to distribute drugs, steal weapons, fire weapons. We have drive-bys constantly, drive-by shootings. We've been very fortunate lately to have not actually had anyone killed in these drive-bys. But yes, we have shots fired routinely in this community by gang members, and we will continue to focus on that. As you stated, I do have a career criminal gang unit, and that unit focuses particularly on gangs and those that have decided to be career criminals. And that unit really uses the intelligent prosecution, the evidentiary based. We do a lot of matching up of shell casings from one scene to another. We use the national correlation databases to try to tie our shootings together, even when there's not a death, or even when there's not even a person who's actually been hit with a bullet. We take those bullets and cross-reference them, and cross-reference them with the guns that we pull off people in traffic stops, and try to make sure that we are intelligently putting all that together to keep up with the gang activity and try to get ahead of it.
Right.
And be able to prevent some of that. And so all of that is tied to Detroit, as you mentioned, because Detroit is the main provider right now of the drugs in our area. And so the gangs in Detroit do bring the drugs down here to Knoxville. And so we have a lot of convictions. You mentioned we post a lot of convictions on our website, if you will, on our Facebook. If you look in there at those convictions, you will notice lots and lots of people with Detroit, Michigan addresses. And it's because they are gang members down here in our community. So, yes, we have gang members here. We still have that gang activity. But I will tell you, the good news is that when you do look at the gang activity, you look at the homicide numbers, our homicide numbers are down this year significantly, which is great news, because in 2020 we had the most homicides we had ever had in Knox County. In 2020 we had 54 homicides. 2021 we had 45, and this year, as of today, we are sitting at 17. So that is a significant decrease, barring some real a disaster or multiple shootings. I think we will be significantly lower with our homicides this year, and that is a really, really good thing. And some of that, I think, is based upon this good work that we are doing in law enforcement on the front end, trying to be proactive and really looking at data and trying to stop some of these crimes before they occur. Absolutely.
Well, we're going to kind of wind this up. Folks can visit the website at knoxcounty.org/DAG. They can also visit on Facebook. They can search for Charme Allen, District Attorney General. That's CHARME ALLEN, District Attorney spelled out, Facebook. On Twitter, it's Charme Allen DA. And then also you have a YouTube page. You also have the podcast, generally speaking, on all podcast streams. So that's the business portion of the District Attorney General's social media accounts that we've talked about. For the campaign, which again, early vote starts Friday, July the 15th, runs through the 30th of July, and the general election is on Thursday, August the 4th. On Facebook, it's Elect Charme Allen, CHARMEALLEN. And I think you got a Twitter for Elect Charme Allen too, right? I think so.
I don't think I have a Twitter for Elect.
Okay. Anyway, so you can find all the campaign activity on the Facebook at Elect Charme Allen. You can, and I'll link to all that. But I appreciate you taking time to be here on the Brian HORNBACK Experience, episode 94, and look forward to you being reelected and being our District Attorney General for another 8 years. Anything else? And I do want to say, I'll shut up, but I do want to give you the opportunity to ask for everybody's votes.
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Brian, for letting me do this. I love the opportunity to be able to tell people about the great work that we do. So much so that I love being a prosecutor, and I almost forget the political part sometimes. I just love to talk about the work we do. But you are right. I am up for re-election, and I would greatly appreciate the vote of your listeners. I am passionate about this job. I really believe that I was built to do this. And I think I do a really good job for the citizens of Knox County, and would love the honor and privilege to be able to keep doing that for the next 8 years. So I would really encourage everyone to get out there and vote, whether it be at early voting or on election day. But I would really appreciate your votes. And please know that we are working hard for you up here in the District Attorney General's office, and I would love to be able to continue that work.
Absolutely. Thank you again, General.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.